Hey, this is Dave and I'm with my brother Rich and we're at the lake house today. We're going to show you how easy it is to install a tile backsplash and in doing so save a ton of money. To get ready before we can start doing any tile laying, we lay down some tape just because thinset and stuff is going to end up falling down on your counter, and this is a nice countertop that we don't really want to mess up. So put down a little tape to catch the mess. We've pulled all the screws out of the outlets. The goal is when we actually lay this tile, we want to have this come to right about here so that the tabs rest against the tile. And so that's why these are out. And when we tile against this, we're going to come right to the edge of the box, the blue box in there. And that way you're going to have good coverage when you put your plates back on. We're going to start in this left corner here and work our way across. We're going to be in a brick pattern for this particular application, which means we'll have one here and then the other one above it will be staggered back and forth all the way down the line. We're going to go up to the top of the cabinet here, all the way across, straight through here, and then bring it all the way to the edge of this cabinet and down to the countertop. And it's only 15-20 square feet, so it's a pretty easy job. The trowels that we're going to be using for this project are 3/16 by 3/16. That's the horizontal measurement of the groove and the vertical measurement of the groove. That's kind of your size. Typically for a small tile that we're doing like this, more decorative tile, you use a smaller notch. If we were doing, say, large format, 2-foot tile, you use 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, or maybe even bigger depending on where you're mounting it. But we don't. This controls the amount of thinset that's going to be actually on the wall, and we want a smaller amount. So when we stick it on there, you get just the right amount. So that's why we're using this. We got our spacers. These are a collection of used spacers, but we're using these white ones, which are 1/8 inch spacers. We're opting for a very thin grout line, and it looks really nice and neat. We're not trying to accentuate the grout, we're trying to accentuate the tile. And lastly, we have our materials that we're using. We're just using unsanded grout. Unsanded grout is typically for your thin grout lines, and our mastic, which is used to stick the tiles. The thinset is to stick the tiles to the wall. This is the first time we've done this on this house. We just opted for a little bucket because that's all we need. It's already pre-mixed. It's going to make things faster. It's more expensive, but oh well, it's a small project. And then last but not least, our caulk. After we get done, when we get close to molding stuff, we'll add just a little bit of caulk. One more thing we're using on this particular side of the tile, there's no molding here, and so you don't want a raw edge of tile just sitting there. So we're going to use this Schluter, which is they make them in metal and plastic. It's a rounded edge, and then this will stick against the wall in the thinset, and you'll see this as we put it on. But this provides just a nice decorative finish at the edge of an exposed tile. If you have any questions, anything's not making sense, go ahead and leave us a comment in the section below and we'll get back with you on that. Let's get to tiling. So this is, again, like I said, this is our thinset. This is the trowel we're using. Could use a bigger trowel, a little bigger, but I think we're going to be fine in the end. I'm not too worried. And so now, just trying to get a little of this stuff. It's pretty soft. They did a good job with it. And first part is just basically getting it on the wall, so you don't have to be too careful. And we're going across the bottom here lengthwise, and by the time we get to the second row, we're going to have to cut these outlet boxes, and we'll show you how to do that in just a bit. Okay, now that we got just some thinset on the wall, we're going to go back and make just clean lines. And this takes off any extra. You don't want extra, you want just the right amount. And so we're good. Now all we gotta do is, we're gonna back butter our tiles. And back buttering is what it sounds like, buttering the back of the tile. And all it does is provide a thin coat, and I'm just gonna barely scrape it off. It leaves like a 1/16 of an inch on there. and just barely, I mean, almost touching through the tile, but it just provides it with a thin coat for better adhesion. And then we need our spacers. Can you grab me a spacer? All right. So we're doing our 1/8 inch. These are our white ones. And we save these. They last through many jobs, which is really nice. And so I'm just putting a couple of these down. I'll put 3 of them just to make sure. But I put these down on the bottom of the countertop. And then we're just going to take our tile and rest it on there. And then flip it up. And that's it. And you can see how a little of the grout comes up, but not a whole lot. You just want it to set like that. Now, if you ever wondered how hard or how well that thinset's working, try to get a tile off. It's remarkable. They really do stick on, and you basically have to get a screwdriver behind there and slowly pry it off. But it's really on there, which is the beauty of tile work. Okay, that's one done. This is a kind of a rinse and repeat practice where you just go ahead and butter your next tile and put it on. Like I just did right there, you want to make sure you take that off the edge of the tile because it creates a big mess later on down the road if you don't. So you want to save your gaps between tiles for grout and not thinset. All right. Tile number 2. Get our spacers again. And then you want to, while you do this, you want to make sure that they are dead level and flush. Flush here to here. And this is where you'll see some variations in your walls. But yeah, because you can already see this one. We know that there's actually a drain pipe right behind here. So this drywall is built up. Is what it looks like. So, okay, so there you go. And now we have our gap in the middle. And so I put it up there first, and then I'll just squeeze that little guy in there like so. And I'm starting to get a little bit of ooze in there. I like to make sure that we can clean that out because I want none of that in there when I'm doing grout. I'm just picky that way. All right, so there's 2 tiles, so we're just going to keep on doing the march.
All right, so we need to cut all these tiles exactly in half, and we're going to use our wet saw. And we've made another video that shows exactly how to operate this particular tile saw, and we'll put a card to it so that you can see how this operates. Okay, we really like this tile saw. It's made by Cobalt, and it wasn't very expensive. It's affordable if you're only doing a few projects. So we're going to put a link in the description below. It's our Amazon affiliate link, and you can buy this exact tile saw just by clicking on that link, and it'll take you right to Amazon. And it won't cost you a penny extra, but Amazon will send us a small commission because we sent you that way. So thanks much for doing that. What I wanted to show here at the very end of my cut, I went really slow so I could, because if you go too fast right there at the end, this tile will tend to chip either that way or that way. So it's just a point to keep in mind when you're using the saw to go slow at the end so you don't get chipping. All right, so here we are in progress, and it's starting to take shape, and the tile looks really cool. We're quite pleased about it. So these are some pretty tricky cuts here around these outlet boxes. They're not all that fun to do, but anyway, just take your time with the saw and it'll work out. So we have to put a little piece over here still. But other than that, it's starting to take shape. And lucky for us, one single tile fits really great under this. This is a giant bay window here in the kitchen. And so we'll be able to bring that all the way across.
Okay, we're at a point now where we've come wrapped around and we were coming over to this side. This is the only major, unfinished edge that we're going to have. And so we got this. They're Schluter strips. Tough to say. And this one is plastic. They come in metal. Depends on the final finish that you want. And they come in about 8 or 10 foot sections. And so we've cut this to length, and this is going to be our end of the tiling. So when your tile is laid, it comes like this and forms, it just has a really nice finished look to it, rather than looking at the edge of the tile when you're done. So we're putting the Schluter in, and we just tuck it. You just tuck it behind the tile, like so. And I've already drawn my line on the wall for level. And then it's just going to sit there, and as I bring in more tile, we'll snug it up against this. There we go. And then this one here, we're going to push this one a little more. So that's it. And so now we're going to we'll keep laying tile across here and butting up against this, and that's our finished edge. We have one more step to go, and that's mix up the grout. And we are using a gray grout for the tiles, and you mix it up like peanut butter consistency, and see it sticks. It's going to hold in the grout lines real well. You don't need a lot. We are using about a quarter bag for starters. Most we're going to use is about a third of that bag to do all this, and it all depends on how thick your grout lines are. So the way to grout is basically just put a little on your float. This is a rubberized float, so it's real soft. And you put this on. It's a total mess, but it's just the way it works. So you put it on and just go across your grout lines, and you go at an angle. Because the problem is if you go this way, it tends to want to pull the grout out of the lines. Whereas if you go on a diagonal, it runs that grout into, deep into the back of the grout line. And so, you're just going ahead and I think we're gonna put a strip on the top of that. So you just go back and forth over each line, and then once we get it all in, we'll scrape it off, something like this, kind of clean it up a bit, and then we'll let that set up for a bit, and then you come back with a sponge and take everything up off the top, and then your final cleanup, and you're done. It's certainly not rocket science. It's very easy to do, but it's a pretty messy job. Okay, so we've been putting tape on the seams, on the sides, and the countertop wherever we're running into a spot where those two surfaces meet. And then once we get done mudding, we can go ahead and just peel the tape off, and it makes a nice clean divide. As you can see now, the grout is turned from a little darker there to a little lighter there, so you can see it's drying. And so it's about 20 minutes, and we're going to start wiping this up and at least taking the heavy stuff off this. All right, so we continue to wipe this all off and then rinse out the sponge, get all the old residue out of the sponge, and then wipe it off again. And we're just going to continue to do this till the surface looks pretty good. There is a caution, and that would be you don't want to let this first coat set up too long. And that's why you could see when I started doing this, some of it was gray, light gray, and some of it was still a little bit dark gray. If you wait too long, more than the recommended minutes on the bag, you could end up with a real problem trying to get it off. Because again, this is like concrete and it dries really hard. All right, we finished it all up and really like the look. It really makes a nice finishing touch to the whole kitchen. All right, we finished up laying all the tile, and I hope you can see in this video that it's really not a difficult job. We probably could finish this all in total time, maybe 2 days. 1 day is laying the tile, the next day is grouting and cleanup. So it's really not time intensive, it's a weekend project. Thanks a lot for viewing. Hope you got something out of this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll keep the videos churning and helping you do projects in a manner that's going to save you a lot of money. Thanks again for viewing.